I am this. It's like, well, no, you're not.
I'm a binge eater.
Right.
Yeah.
Change the words of, and it's like that you have to have that growth mindset, right? It's like,
Right.
okay, I do have the ability to change.
And that's how I was for a long time. Like, I'm Italian. Like, this is what we do.
Yep.
We eat all the food. We eat the pasta. We
Food
wear the
equals
stretchy
love.
pants, like, and that was my default. Like, I'm Italian. Like, I can't, what do you expect from me? And it was like, no, girl, you have the ability to change and grow. But if you're going to keep telling yourself that you are this, then you are. Right. So it took some reflection on that to be able to grow.
Welcome to Cut the Crap with Beth and Matt, the world's #1 no bullshit health and fitness podcast.
Are you ready to cut the crap with your diet and exercise, get strong as fuck, and build a healthy relationship with food? Then you've come to the right place.
Let's go. If you'd like to support us in the podcast, join our Patreon where you get exclusive content, which consists of monthly workouts you can do at home or at the gym, monthly challenges that are either strength, habit, or mindset based, and access to over 100 plus low-calorie, high-protein, family-friendly meals. These are all designed by a professional chef who is certified in nutrition. These recipes are already in MyFitnessPal for easy fucking tracking. New recipes are also added each week.
We believe that fitness is for everyone, so this is our way of getting you started on your health and fitness journey at a price most everyone can afford. So what the fuck are you waiting for? We'll see you in the Patreon.
So Laura, Cravings Coach, why don't you let everyone know like how you became a coach, your story, things like that?
Yeah. Well, how much time do we have? Right? No, but right now I'm a cravings coach for women. I'm a cravings and fat loss coach. And my passion is really helping women who have traditionally been stuck in the binge restrict cycle, all or nothing dieting mindset, get a handle on the cravings that occur as a result and the self-sabotage that occurs as a result of these fad diets and this all or nothing mindset. And to find a craving solution for them, not eliminate the craving. Cravings don't go away, right? Let's be honest, we're humans, but find a solution for that craving so that these women can have an easier time with their weight loss and their fat loss goals. And something we do at Laura Cavallo Coaching is we don't track, we don't count, and we don't eliminate anything. We just attune our clients' hunger and cravings cues so much so that we can implement different strategies to help them get into that fat loss phase. How I got into this is, well, let's just start from the beginning. I'm Italian, born and raised in Italy, off the boat. In Italian culture, it's like you are eating all the breads, all the pastas. And if you are not overeating and unbuttoning your pants at the dinner table, like you have not eaten enough, right? Don't offend the chef. You have to try all the things. And it's very gluttonous, right? And obviously Italian food is delicious. Like who doesn't want to eat all the
Absolutely.
things? But these childhood habits, like I remember being at the dinner table and being like, you're not allowed to get up until you eat this pork chop, right? And I remember trying to hide the pork chop in my napkin and getting caught and sitting at the dinner table till 9 p.m. at night. I remember going to the bathroom and spitting up food because I didn't want to eat it. And so there was this default of eat all the food all the time. And so this habit followed me into my teenage years. I became a big binge drinker and I became a big binge eater. And I was an athlete in high school and college. I played Division I lacrosse in college, and I had a very big appetite for both partying and food. And so I was very, very gluttonous in my teens and 20s. And again, after college, I moved to Brooklyn, New York, and I became a wine and liquor representative. So a lot of my day revolved around tasting wine and dinners and living that relentless lifestyle of partying and fun and eating out and restaurants. And I wonder if I would have a different experience living in New York City now, in my version now. But, at the end of the day, New York, there's just really good food and lots of good bars and lots of fun to be had. So that was really my experience through my 20s and my college years. But when I lived in Brooklyn, I was actually assaulted in broad daylight by a mentally disabled man. And I just remember not being able to defend myself. I remember like running around the intersection, like throwing my bags at him and trying to get away and just kind of giving up and like being pulled to the ground by my hair and looking up at this man who was saying just these really weird things and just my life flashing before my eyes, really, and not knowing what was going to happen. And within that moment, someone came over and came to my rescue and kind of disrupted his trance, because he was kind of in a trance. And I watched this whole scene unfold in front of me. And that was really my turning point for getting out of New York. And I felt weak. I felt defenseless. I felt helpless. And it wasn't just in the way of how I was leading my lifestyle. I was also in unhealthy relationships, verbally abusive relationships, emotionally abusive relationships. I was abusing myself. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't doing anything that was good for me. So I decided to find more balance in my life. And I moved to Los Angeles and I became a personal trainer in 2014. And you would think like, oh, this is when you're going to get healthy and things are going to get better. And, you know, you're in the lifestyle now, right? Wrong. That is when my binging and deprivation got a lot worse. I felt a lot of societal pressure to look a certain way, being a trainer for Equinox in Santa Monica, surrounded by beautiful people, beautiful trainers. And I was coming off of, 15-year binge of alcohol and drugs. So any fad diet I could find at that time, I had done. So I started with the body ecology diet, which was a gut cleanse that actually really helped a lot of the digestive issues that I had, leaky gut. I went from pooping once a week to pooping daily. So that was a big winner for me, a big winner. And, when you see so much success from an elimination diet like that, which I actually needed because I was removing all of these things that were impacting my gut and having all this yeast overgrowth and candida overgrowth. And I saw the power of this elimination diet. And I was like, bring on all the elimination diets, right? So from there, it was like the clean diet. And then it was the swimsuit diet. And then it was keto for 6 months. And then it was paleo. And so over the course of 5 years, I seesawed between 10 different fat diets. And I was still kind of stuck in my partying ways on the weekends. So during the week, I was really good. And then come Friday happy hour, me and my girl would go out. We'd start eating, we start drinking. And the weekends were lots of greasy food, alcohol, drugs sometimes. And then Monday would start back over. And it was during this time that my binges were just scary. They were so scary that I was like, it's impossible for anyone else to be doing this because this is so shameful and this is so intense. Like around my period, I would eat whole boxes of cereal and like just bowl after bowl after bowl and whole bags of chocolate and like these chocolate covered pretzels from Trader Joe's called Cowboy Bark that are so delicious. And I would eat these whole bags and I wouldn't even be full. And I would just say, I'm such a freak. I don't know what's going on. I'm so ashamed. I can't tell anyone. And so one of my aha moments was eating a whole box of cereal and moving on to like a bag of chips or something and not being full and being like, something is wrong here. Something is drastically wrong. This is either hormonal or this is emotional or something. So that started my journey into understanding my hormones a little bit more. I read the book Woman Code by Alyssa Vitti. And that's when I started to understand how much hormones impact everything, right? Your mood, your hunger, your sex drive, your ability to recover from injury and the expression on your skin and your mood that day, your digestion. So I got off birth control and I started just eating to nurture my cycle. And I noticed cravings starting to decrease and things starting to improve, but I was still drinking. I was still partying. And so within that time period, I was introduced to my now business coach, who her name is Jill Coleman. And she introduced the concept of moderation. And she was like, I'm having chocolate on Tuesday and I'm having a glass of wine on Wednesday. And I'm like, wait. And you still look athletic and you're still fit and you're still a badass. What's going on here? And so she really opened me up to the idea that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, that you can find moderation and balance. And so since 2016 has been my own journey of discovery and digging into cravings, hunger, overeating, understanding the whys, the hows, and developing my own system for helping other women. I got certified as a mindset coach. Beth and I met through that program that really helped how I was helping my clients and really helped my coaching. I got certified in the Metabolic Female, which is a course on women's hormones and women's metabolism, obviously certified in nutrition and fitness as well. So everything from my personal experience to my studies and then applying these strategies with my clients is really what has gotten me to this place today. So that's the long version of where I'm at now and what I'm doing.
Wow. That's a pretty incredible story, Laura.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, really. So would you say you had, like a binge eating disorder?
It's interesting that you bring that up because I've done a lot of research on binge eating disorder and binge eating in general. I do believe I had binge eating, but not binge eating disorder where I was doing it weekly for 3 or 4 months at a time consistently. And I have a lot of clients that come to me and I have to screen very thoroughly for this because binge eating can be, well, first of all, not everyone's honest with their frequency and what they're doing.
Yep.
And secondly, I have worked with clients that have had binge eating disorder, but have been turned away from therapists and psychologists and saying like, you're fine. You're just emotional eating, or you're just doing this.
Yeah,
it is. And it's more common than we think and we know because I don't know why, but I'm having to refer these clients out to other therapists and psychologists that are tailored towards eating disorders. I don't think I had binge eating disorder, but was I binging consistently for a period of time, intermittently, a little bit more frequently than others? Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between binging and full blown.
Maybe we should go through that because I think that sometimes, and I think Casey Joe actually just made a post about this. Like there is a difference between like binge eating disorder and like binging and like overeating.
Yes.
I think because a lot of people, like you said, they kind of like label themselves. I binge eat. It's like, okay, well, what exactly does that mean? Maybe we can, go through the different kind of.
Sure. Yeah. And I saw that post and I had a whole thing written like on my phone. I was going to respond in there and then my phone died and I was like,
you lost it.
Great. I have to collect my thoughts again.
Right.
So overeating is really the act of eating too much in a sitting where you feel uncomfortably full. And it happens often, right? It happens. It's very common daily. And it's not necessarily tied to the emotional aspect. It's maybe you hadn't eaten enough that day and you're overeating in a specific meal.
Yeah. I feel like, sometimes like if I go out to eat and something,
it just tastes so good.
It tastes so good and you just keep eating, but and it's not something that I do very often, but when you do, you're like, I'm uncomfortable and I don't like this feeling. And
like, I remember why I don't do this.
Yeah. This is why, eating mindfully and slowly and not going somewhere when you're fucking starving.
Right.
And it's definitely a balancing act, between overeating, binging and the full blown disorder. And I think like you were saying, Beth, people just categorize it or mislabel it.
Right.
And because we a lot of people, and this is still new science, really, understanding the mental aspect of dieting and eating. Not everything is a eating disorder, but it's just like how disordered eating isn't necessarily an eating disorder. You can have disordered eating tendencies and habits without having a full blown eating disorder.
And just like even like binge and restrict. So you can say, well, I'm going to starve myself for a little bit here, and then I'm going to get a hold of something and just eat till I'm super full.
Right. That's disordered eating.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And I feel like I definitely had disordered eating patterns for sure.
I've been
Yeah. And, I know that my binge eating was a result. It was kind of a trifecta. It was the habits I had acquired since being a kid. It was my hormonal disruptions from all the sugar I was eating, the intense exercise I was doing, the binging and restricting. And then it was also environmental, going out and drinking and then having a free for all and restricting and all that. So emotional eating can come both from a positive and also like a negative place. Like we tend to eat when we're happy or we're sad or we're frustrated, right? But oftentimes emotional eating is referred to in a negative way. And doesn't always have to be negative, right? Food is also joyful and can bring us all sorts of different emotions to it. And so the signs and symptoms, I'm going to just talk a little bit about emotional eating, include but aren't limited to eating without physical hunger, right? Eating more than what's comfortable, eating to feel better or eating as a reward as well. Eating to feel safe. I talk a lot about this, like soothing with food, and feeling powerless or out of control around food. So that can be emotional eating. And binge eating does have an element of this emotional aspect to it. And that was what was Casey's post was saying is we have overeating, right? Which can happen if you're around food that you're maybe not around as often, or, you're more hungry and then you end up overeating. But the difference between that overeating and binge eating, you have that emotional element in it, right? It's emotionally spurred. It can be as a result of stress or an intense situation or being around certain people. Where the binge eating disorder comes in is it's happening frequently, weekly, for a period of time up to 3 months, or a minimum of 3 months rather. And so you're seeing it happening more consistently. Now, of course, if it gets to a point where you're throwing up or there's exercise happening after that, now we're getting into a different type of eating disorder. And so Casey's recommendations in that post were, if you have binge eating disorder, as well as if you're binge eating, you should seek professional help. And I definitely 100% agree with the binge eating disorder that it should be outsourced to someone that has those professional capacities. But what I was going to say in that post is I see women coming in who have these disordered eating tendencies, and they're being turned away by their doctors, or they're being prescribed appetite suppressants.
Which is the last thing they need in that situation.
Yeah. Similar to what they give people that are trying to quit smoking.
Okay. Like Wellbutrin or something. Cause I was given that and I was not fucking hungry.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah.
And so, that's when we have to say, like, when I say, like, I can take you on as a client, but I also need you supplementing our work with a therapist that is trained with eating disorders. Good. And oftentimes it's not even about the food. It's about their marriage, or it's about body image.
The food's just a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Which food is calming, right? So that's why a lot of people like, emotionally eat, stressy, is because food is like a parasympathetic response. Your body kind of calms down when you're eating.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And for many people, when they're eating, because they're sad or unhappy, it's that dopamine hit that food's providing them.
Yeah. And, I think that that's okay, right? Letting people know that, like, it's okay to be in these scenarios where maybe we are looking for comfort from food, but bringing that awareness to it, like, how often are you doing this? Right. How much of this food are you eating? And that's where the cravings and the emotional eating come in, is like, it's never going to go away, right? Instead of fighting against it, I want you to lean into it and instead bring that curiosity and learning to this particular scenario. And then I think that takes a lot of the shame and the guilt out of the relationship that people have with food. And they start to almost like normalize, like, that this happens to a lot of people and that it's common and that it's something that can be healed and can be changed when we start to take away the shame and the guilt, which I call like a fog. It's like a fog that you can't see past.
Peeling those onion layers.
Yeah. Is that what you call it?
I like that.
The stinky onion.
Getting to the middle of the onion here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard digging deep and figuring out why you're doing the things that you're
working
doing.
on your mind and your brain is very difficult. It's very uncomfortable.
It's hard as older adults too, because you just say, like, well, that's how I am. That's how I've always been.
You start identifying as that person. It's like, it becomes your reality. Like, I am this. It's like, well, no, you're not.
I'm a binge eater.
Right.
Yeah.
Change the words and it's like that. You have to have that growth mindset, right? It's like, okay, I do have the ability to change.
And that's how I was for a long time. Like, I'm Italian. Like, this is what we do. We eat all the food. We eat the pasta. We wear the stretchy pants, like, and that was my default. Like, I'm Italian. Like, I can't, what do you expect from me? And it was like, no, girl, you have the ability to change and grow. But if you're going to keep telling yourself that you are this, then you are. Right. So it took some reflection on that to be able to grow and change in that respect.
And you said this at the beginning too, about you being Italian and how the food is just part of the culture. And I think that's something that people overlook too, is the cultural aspect of eating. Yeah. And that's what a lot of diets neglect. Like they just expect you to just cut all this stuff out and restrict all this stuff. Meanwhile, they're Italian or they're Indian or whatever their ethnicity and their culture is that they grew up in. You're completely disregarding that.
Yeah. And that's what I love about our nutrition approach at Laura Cavallo Coaching, is that our nutrition framework accounts for your preferences. It accounts for your schedule. It accounts for your ability to prep or not prep. It accounts for going on vacation or being busier. It's very adaptable to the individual versus saying like, all right, keto or low carb, or, we're doing shakes for breakfast and lunch. And for many people, that's not possible.
Yeah. Definitely. I'd say for a lot of people, for sure. People just want to always do the most extreme thing, and then not even thinking that like you're going to have an anniversary, there's going to be deaths, there's going to be birthdays. Like, how are you going to navigate that?
Exactly.
You said something earlier too about fat loss and, the emotional, mental side of it. And I want to talk about that for a moment, because so many people want to lose fat, but they're struggling with these cravings and these disordered eating tendencies, emotional eating and things like that. But the only thing that matters to them is fat loss. But so our job as coaches is to like, yes, maybe you want fat loss, but what you need right now is to tackle this side of things, right? The mental side of things. How do you make that connection with your clients and get people to realize and get them to understand that fat loss isn't a priority right now? We can lose fat later, but first you need to repair this relationship with food and yourself. And then fat loss is going to be a lot easier after that.
Well, a couple ways. The way that our programs are set up, they're not, 30 or 60-day programs. We require at least a 4-month commitment from our clients, because we know that change takes time, and we like to get at it from habits and routines and behaviors. So I say, listen, this is a lifestyle change. You're going to be a different person in 3 or 4 months. And if this isn't something for you, I totally get it. I totally understand. But I want to let you know that you're not going to have to go back to anything after this. This is going to be your final solution. So if you're willing to put the work in right now, then we can get you to a place where you have food freedom. You never have to worry about going on another diet, and you'll be able to course correct during times that become more challenging and less predictable. So that's one way. I need the client's buy-in for long term.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's number one. The second thing is that I talk about seasonal strategies with my clients. So not every season is a fat loss season, right? Some seasons are maintenance, and some seasons are more mental health and growth related and self-development. So some clients that come in and they're really eager, I'll say, listen, we have these things that we need to work on first, which is most often stabilizing cravings and hunger, which is phase number 1. And that taps into also just the mindset aspect around nutrition and diet. Because once we start stabilizing hunger and cravings, we start to shift the mindset around all or nothing dieting, around how they're taking care of their sleep, how they're managing stress. And so we're introducing already these little tidbits in the first phase of our work together that gets clients wins even without the fat loss. Like, oh, I'm sleeping better. I have more energy. I'm in a better mood. I have better sex drive. I'm having less binges at night, or I'm overeating less. I'm not mindlessly snacking. Those are already wins for them, right? So our first phase is stabilizing hunger and cravings. And then the second phase is getting them to stay consistent with diet and exercise. And then the third phase, if they're ready for it, is fat loss. And that's when we teach them different fat loss strategies that don't require tracking or calorie counting or anything like that. But I won't introduce those unless I have felt that the client has made progress in the way of mindset and health, and they are on board with a longer term lifestyle change. But most often I won't be taking people on that are, trying to lose 10 pounds in 30 days or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And there's a lot of mindset around body image that comes into play with this, right? Because so many people think that losing the weight is going to make them happy, getting them to a certain number is going to validate them, and that all is going to be well in the world when they achieve the look that they've gotten, right? And all of us can probably attest that that's not true.
Absolutely not.
We've all probably achieved those aesthetic looks, and we're like, all right, well, wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be.
What the fuck did I do this for? Nothing changed. I'm not happy.
Exactly. Exactly. You either sacrificed a ton for it, or it wasn't like worth the sacrifice to get there. So I also throughout the process try and show them ways that they are valuable and that they are worthy and that they have other things to contribute to how they feel about themselves that has nothing to do with their weight and their fat loss goals. So we do a lot of gratitude journaling. We do a lot of community building within our Facebook group. And I just have them fall in love with the process versus that end goal.
Yes.
More so than just like, all right, 3 months, losing 10 pounds. Okay. You know?
Yeah.
Have you ever wanted to start a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily and then distribute it everywhere and even earn money doing what you love. All in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit episodes right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Now, what's really cool is video podcasts are also now available on Spotify. And if you want to be taken seriously on social media, you need to have a video presence. And what better way to do that by connecting with people via your video episodes? With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's all totally free with no catch whatsoever. And ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters here on Cut the Crap with Beth and Matt, we are easily releasing new episodes and distributing them to multiple platforms, and it's never been easier. We highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
My question was, so how would someone in a short answer, stabilize their hunger and cravings? Like, where does someone go about to just figure that out? Besides, getting coaching.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's two things happening. There's hunger, which is felt in the gut. That's a physical feeling of maybe you haven't eaten enough or you haven't eaten at all that day. And then we have cravings. And cravings is the more complex beast, right? That is layered in there. Cravings happen for a number of different reasons. But one strategy that has helped my clients a lot tackle both the hunger and the cravings is Satisful Plates. Satisful Plates is my own guide for creating a plate, which has 4 different parts. When you create a Satisful Plate, you want to lead with a lean. Part number 1 is lean, Lean. And this is any protein forward food. It doesn't have to be a lean protein. What I mean by lean is feed the lean, right? We know that we build muscle tissue by adding protein into our diets and strength training. So we are feeding the lean with this first portion on our plates, and you want it to be about 1 to 2 palm size amounts. The second part to a Satisful Plate is detox. Detox is a fruit or a vegetable, preferably a green vegetable, but it could be any vegetable or any fruit that you like. And you want 1 to 2 palm size amounts of that detox element on your plate. These two parts together, lean and detox, are going to make up most of your plate. Okay. Now, part 3 is called crave. Crave is that food that gives you the yum yums. It could be a bagel. It could be a chocolate croissant. It could be a cookie. It could be a friggin' ice cream cone. I don't care what the yum yum is. And it's going to be different for all of us. Some of us are more salty. Some of us are fatty. Some are sweet. Some are crunchy. For me, in the mornings, I want something like a piece of toast with like peanut butter on it or something, right? If it's lunch, I probably want a cookie or I want some chocolate granola. If it's dinner, I probably want some chocolate. So the crave is going to be in a portion size that's a little bit smaller than you would normally eat. So if you would usually have 2 slices of toast, you're going to have 1. If you would normally have a whole muffin, you're going to have half a muffin.
Okay.
If you normally have 6 or 7 slices of bacon, you're going to have 2 or 3 slices of bacon. what this does, it gives you that cravings relief and that craving satisfaction, so you don't feel deprived throughout the rest of the day. And it helps you stay more compliant because you feel full and you feel satisfied. And that's what we want our meals to do for us. Now, the fourth part is where we start to bring the personal element into it, is observe. How does this plate make you feel? Are you bloated? Are you gassy? Are you hungry? Are you still craving food? Okay. This is what helps the clients connect the dots, because at the end of the day, we want people making decisions on food based on how it makes them feel, based on how food responds in their body, right? Not based on some diet plan or what the next influencer is eating, right? You need to make this work for you. If oatmeal makes you crave like a cheeseburger and pizza for lunch, oatmeal probably isn't going to be the best option for you in your breakfast, right? But if you can have oatmeal and eggs and bacon, and that's a meal that keeps you full for 4 to 6 hours, and you don't feel like you need to eat your left arm within two hours, then that's a pretty good meal for you. So this is the individual element. So eating satisfying breakfast within 2 hours of waking has shown to help my clients decrease cravings, hunger, and overeating by up to 70% within 7 days. And it's just, most people aren't eating breakfast that are coming to us, or they're having coffee, or they're having a granola bar or a muffin. And so satisfying breakfast within 2 hours of waking is triggering your hunger and your cravings to start earlier in the day. It's satisfying you, it's nourishing you. And then we find that clients aren't overeating as much later on in the day, and they're not binging as much later on in the day.
That's what we notice with our clients as well. And from a research standpoint, there's tons of research to support what you're saying there as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, we are moving up and around most of the day, eat food throughout the day so that you have energy to do the things you love, not at 5 o'clock at night when you're getting ready to chill out with your family and sit on the couch for the rest of the night.
Right.
Yeah. And studies show that the majority of Americans are consuming most of their calories between 5 and 10 p.m. at night, which is when we're the most sedentary. And so, clients come to me and say, well, I'm not hungry in the morning, because you're not eating.
Thank you.
Because you've lost touch of that hunger, right?
Yes,
thank you, Laura.
Exactly. So this first phase is really attuning hunger and cravings cues and helping them become more sensitive. So we're regulating leptin, we're regulating insulin, and we are helping our clients understand, what is hunger? Am I really craving? Do I need to eat an actual meal instead of eating this snack of whatever handful of pretzels or whatever it might be?
Or coffee with a little bit of creamer.
Exactly. And then suppress my appetite for another 3 hours.
Yep.
That was something I was really good at.
Yep, for sure. That's how I fell in love with black coffee, actually. Freaking intermittent fasting did a number of on my relationship with food. So I switched to intermittent fasting because of I switched to black coffee because of intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast, destroyed my relationship with food. And I got to the point where I was doing OMAD, 1 meal a day. And I thought it was the greatest thing ever. Like, I can eat 3,000 calories at one time. Wow. Holy shit. Was that fucked up?
Yeah. Yeah. And
I would feel like dog shit if I ate 3,000 calories.
Oh, I did. To everybody else, I was putting on a front like, no, I feel great. I'm so energetic. I'm this and this. I remember being at work and people were like, dude, you look like shit. I'm like, no, I feel great. I'm doing OMAD. I'm fasting. I'm going to eat tonight at 8 p.m. and I'm going to have all 2,000 calories of pizza then. Like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we get so stuck in these things that other people are doing or have worked for other people, or these rules, right? We just want people to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, and it's like,
just tell me what to do. It's like,
we love rules, but we love breaking rules even more.
Right. And I was the same way. Like, I don't want to figure it out. I just want someone to tell me, until nothing else was working. And I tried all the rules. I tried all the programs. I followed them to the T, and I still wasn't getting results. So I was like, okay, well, something's not working.
So would you say then it's like no food rules? We all agree on no food rules, but what about structure? Obviously, so what you're doing is you're building structure into, into
guidelines. I would say no rules, but there should be some guidelines,
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, the science is the science, right? So if we do want to regulate hunger, there's a scientific element to that. If we want to regulate cravings, same thing. If we want to be in a fat loss phase, same thing. So not getting too in the weeds with our clients are like, okay, well, insulin and leptin is doing this. They're like, okay, what? Like, just tell me what I need to do to stabilize them. So Yes, I provide guidelines for clients so that they have a little bit of structure, but it's flexible to meet them where they're at, whether they're traveling or, life gets unpredictable, or even they get sick or their kids get sick and they can't be as routined or structured. So Satisful plates, going back to that, is one of the best ways to regulate cravings, or hunger rather. And then cravings, we have to get a little bit more individualized because everyone's cravings happen for a different reason. So I actually have a cravings quiz that helps identify what your major cravings archetype is. And I have 3 different cravings archetypes. And the first is disconnected Donna. The second is routined Roberta. And the third is hormonal Henrietta. And we all have aspects from different ones, but we have one archetype that leads the pack for us. Hormonal Henrietta is more of a hormonal based cravings trigger. Routine Roberta is more environmental and routines. And then disconnected Donna is more mindset, emotional eating.
I love that you've put names to them, because that helps them connect and identify. And we do something similar. We teach a mindful eating course as well. So I love everything that you're talking about. We have archetypes like that as well. The clean eater, the professional dieter, and things like that. So so it's all super powerful stuff. It just helps with people to visualize. That's how that does sound like me. I identify as that. So now that I know that that's my behavior, my character trait there with food, now I can work on fixing it. Like you said earlier, with observing and building awareness and things like that.
Oh yeah. Creating awareness.
Yep.
Yeah. And then it helps them also feel less alone, right? Knowing that other women are taking the quiz and everyone's going to get an archetype. And, I've had over 400 people take this quiz, and it's awesome because I just want to demystify the feeling that cravings and overeating and things like this is bad or should be shameful, right? And of course, overeating consistently isn't good, but we have some solutions in place for some of these challenges.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just thinking that a lot of people just don't have Satisful plates. And that is the reason why a lot of them are, overeating in the evening, is because they're literally not eating anything during the day that they even want.
They're eating what they think they're supposed to be eating, right?
Or they're eating these mini fucking meals that aren't satisfying at all. No protein, little bars in the smoothies and mini salads with fucking just lettuce and a tomato.
Yeah. And I still have clients that I've been working with for a year that are they're connecting the dots, but they still find it hard to follow through with certain elements of Satisful. I have a client, I did a check-in today. She's like, some of the challenges this week is I have my period and I haven't been eating enough protein. And, her last couple check-ins is I've been eating more sugar at night and I've been more irritable and I'm getting in my head about my body and I haven't been sleeping well and I've been more stressed. Right. And I'm like, go back to the basics, right? We're not trying to do anything fancy. I want you to think about Satisful plates within 2 hours of waking up. And for lunch, if you can do Satisful plates for breakfast and lunch, you're set up pretty well for the rest of the day. I want you to just focus on sleep, stress management, right? Pretty soon these clients start to connect these dots and identify what parts of Satisful plate maybe they're missing. I haven't had enough detox, right? Or I just didn't have crave for a couple of meals just to see what would happen. And whoops, I had 6 cookies. And I'm like, you're going to want the cookie. Just have it. It's okay.
Right.
And the cool thing is clients are seeing results. We're seeing an average of 10 pounds and 10 inches lost within the first 3 months of working with us, up to 10 pounds and 10 inches. And that's without restriction or counting or anything. And it's with stabilizing those cravings and those hunger cues,
which is so important.
Yeah.
So the message there is, if you struggle with these things, you need to address them, not push them onto tomorrow's problem. If you want to lose fat, these things are more important right now.
Exactly. You want to think of it kind of like you're on this road, right? And at the end of it is your fat loss goals, right? But to get to that fat loss goal, you have to pass different stops along this road.
Right.
Yeah.
And first stop is stabilize cravings and hunger. Yeah. Let's stop off here. Let's see what's up. Let's take in the sights and sounds. Let's spend a little bit of time here.
Let's enjoy it.
Yeah. And the cool thing is every stop you take compounds on the next stop. It's not just like it's just a base value. It increases in value as you go down that road. So when you stabilize hunger and cravings, all this other good shit starts happening. And then once you start being more consistent with your nutrition and your diet and your exercise rather, and you start improving sleep and stress, all of this other good shit happens that you didn't even know about, right?
Right.
And then once we get to the fat loss, you're like, I feel so good. I don't even care. Like I've had clients be like, well, I don't even feel like I need to do progress photos and measurements. I just feel so good. I'm adding weight in the gym. Like I'm putting weight, I'm lifting heavier. I'm sleeping better. I have more self-care practices in my life. My clothes are fitting better. I don't even think I need to like weigh myself or take circumference measurements. I'm like, great, perfect. You know? So
this is why I don't want people to put a timeline on things or, even have like a number on the scale in mind. Let's let go of the timelines, the numbers, and focus on the fucking shit that you need to focus on, which is getting back to the basics and being super consistent with those.
Right.
You'll get there when you get there. Like we that's one of the most common questions we get. How long is it going to take me to lose X amount of weight? It's like, we can't tell you. Nobody can tell you.
I don't have a magic fucking wand here, It's like, can you master those habits and be consistent with those? Let's try that first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just had a similar conversation with a client. She's in perimenopause. And Beth, I know you posted something about this today. Mm-hmm. She had a vacation to Mexico coming up, which was last week. And she was like, it was like end of February and she had been gaining weight and she was frantic. And she was like, well, do I start fasting? Do I start calorie counting? What do I do? I said, let's look at the basics. How's your stress been and your sleep? Because that's the foundational shit, right? It's not even nutrition. Like if you're not sleeping and you're stressed out, the scale's not budging. Nothing's happening.
Your nutrition's going to probably be not great anyway, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Stress eat.
So we got a handle on stress. We got a handle on sleep. And I said, listen, the fasting, which we did like a 12-12, 14-10 wasn't even crazy. Well, 14-10 can be 12-12. We started there. I said, that's the icing on the cake. That's the extra shit that comes after your nutrition's on point, after you're sleeping 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like we're not just like jumping to fasting because like we have to lose this weight. I am not sacrificing your mental health, your physical health, just for the sake of fat loss. I am not doing that. I will help you get to where you want to be, but that's the icing on the cake. And I need you doing these things really well first before we even start addressing any of that extra stuff.
Now, question about is fasting something you implement with all of your clients, or is that individualized? Like this client's a good candidate for, time restricted feeding or not?
Yeah. So I consider time restricted feeding a more advanced strategy that can help clients. I don't necessarily look at it from a fat loss perspective unless I am working with clients in perimenopause or menopause, in which time restricted eating has been shown to help. I look at it more from.
That?
Yeah, I'm curious about that because I've not heard that actually. Well,
So
I have, but from someone that I'm not going to name her name, but you know who I'm talking about, right, Matt?
Absolutely.
She wrote a book and she blocked me and Matt on TikTok. But anyway, yeah, but she is like all about that, right? Which for me, I'm like, I'm 50. There's no way I'm going to intermittent fast. I don't need to. Like, I don't see any reason to. I am in menopause. I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I'm so curious to know like what that purpose would have for somebody.
Right. So the information I'm pulling is from the Metabolic Female Certification course with Jade Tita. And what happens in perimenopause and menopause is the body is undergoing a lot of stress. It's going through a lot of changes. There's hormonal stoppages happening. So the idea is during menopause is to alleviate any additional stress on the body. So that's why sometimes you want to pull back on strength training and increase your walking. Mm-hmm. Even low carb can be helpful for women in peri and menopause just because they can't tolerate carbohydrates as well during that phase. Again, I'm not advocating for low carb for anyone. Obviously.
No, I think low carb can be a good strategy for the right person. And I think that's what's important is having the right strategy for the right person instead of the blanket strategies.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, people listen to podcasts to hear low carb and then they start running and do low carb. So, but the idea is to kind of alleviate the stress on the body. So what fasting can do is it can allow for more rest and regeneration during that time period. And honestly, I don't even recommend a very restrictive fast. I think a 12-12 can be super beneficial. Just giving yourself 12 hours between your last meal to your first meal so that you're giving yourself 12 hours for your pancreas or liver and all of your organs.
Not that bad if you think about it, because you're sleeping, 7 to 8 hours, hopefully. That's 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at nighttime. So
Yeah.
I mean, I could say I probably even do that now without even realizing it. Like, I don't even think about it. Like, I'll get up at 5 a.m. I'll have my coffee and I'll go to the beach. I'll eat breakfast at like 8:39. So, I mean, I'm kind of doing that without even thinking about it. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, I'm just sleeping and waking up and doing other shit before I eat breakfast.
Yeah. And when it comes to the time restricted feeding during perimenopause, I was referring to it as a means for weight loss and fat loss. So obviously, if you have less hours for eating, then you're going to end up losing. However, we don't want it to be a super drastic drop where you're eating, 500-600 less calories than you normally would.
Right.
Intermittent fasting isn't a means to just, eat a ton less calories. It's just giving you an opportunity to eat within a certain time period.
Totally.
So that's some of the intermittent fasting recommendations I have made for perimenopause and menopausal women. It's not my specialty. It's not like my niche that I specifically work with, but I did learn a lot throughout that course. And then some of the clients I have worked with already. And so intermittent fasting, I do find, is more of an advanced strategy, right? Because we have to have all of these other things in place and you have to be doing them well for a certain amount of time. And also what I look for is for clients to be able to course correct more quickly if they happen to quote unquote fall off track. So I won't share advanced strategies with clients if I find that like they go on vacation and then it takes them like 2-3 weeks to get back on track. And maybe their mindset isn't in a more balanced and healthy place where they're looking at things in a more realistic sense and they're getting really self-deprecating, then they're not going to be a good candidate for that. I look for someone that has a little bit more autonomy within their process, has a little bit more competence, and knows, okay, today I can do a 12-12. Yesterday I did a 14-10, but I don't really have to push myself that much, and has the ability to self-regulate a little bit better.
That's amazing, because that's really what it comes down to, is that individual, personal preferences and everything about their unique lifestyle. You need to be able to adapt and you need to be able to be flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can work sometimes for people that have a really demanding work schedule and, they're not able to eat during work. So then maybe we'll do an intermittent fast or something like that. Yeah,
totally.
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of nurses and doctors and people that have like that schedule that's crazy do intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I see that in a lot of my clients. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that it's not because they want to do it. It's just the nature of the beast. When you're working 12 to 16 hours on an emergency room floor, you going from patient to patient, you don't even have time to pee, let alone eat.
Yeah. Do you work with a lot of shift workers that work at night?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Probably 25% of our clients are either nurses or somebody that's doing shift work overnight. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I got to team up with you guys on my next shift work client.
We've definitely been there and done that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, it is.
I do find when people are doing shift work, one thing is like, what should my eating pattern be, or when should I be eating? And
how should I track? Do I track tomorrow or today?
Yeah, right. It's like it doesn't matter right now. It depends is really the answer, and people don't like hearing that. Is it depends? When should I be eating if I work overnight? It's like, I don't know. I need to know more about you. Your break schedule, your afterlife schedule, your cravings, like you said, cravings and all that. Like that stuff is all taken into consideration there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gets a little bit more complex and in the weeds. And that's where one-on-one coaching is beneficial, right? Yeah. Because we can't give blanket statements and just say, well, just eat before work and then exercise, when you come home and then before you go to bed. And it's like, well, I have to get up in 6 hours. It's like, okay. Well.
Yeah. And that's why we say when we make posts on social media that everything is individualized. Like there's, not a one size fits all. And then, people get really defensive thinking every video pertains to them. It's like, no. Well, I can't do that because it's like, oh my God, that's why you're not coaching. Okay. If you were like a coaching client, then we could do individualized. But when you're speaking to the general population, it's just general. It's not individual. And I think people need to really get that. So if you're listening to this podcast right now, just know, like, take all this stuff with a grain of salt and remember, like, apply it to you if it's something that you can actually stick to and you feel like it'll work for you.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yep. And take that part number 4 of observe. How does this make me feel? How do I respond?
Yes.
Is this something that I can keep up for the long term?
Yeah.
Do I enjoy this? Do I like this? Right.
I do like that observe skill. Is that, do you do any type of like journaling to help them observe and to raise awareness to how they're feeling before and after?
Yes.
Or and during?
Yep. Yeah. I teach clients how to keep a nutrition journal and, what time they're eating, the contents of their meals, how they feel within an hour of that meal, within 2 hours of that meal, and then within 4 to 6 hours if they haven't eaten again. And then I also have them track their hunger on a scale of 1 to 10,
Nice.
when they get like, when they feel hunger, like, 3, should I eat? And we talk about that. And then also their cravings. And then also, what time they're getting up, what time they're going to bed, and any stressors that might happen during that day. So, had a fight with my husband, or, had a stressful visit at the doctor's, or whatever it might be, or really happy and want to have a glass of wine, or whatever it is. So they start to document that. And again, that's part of the self-auditing process, is like, I'm not going to be in your back pocket all the time. Right. I am not you. I don't know like how you respond to things. Like, this is an individual journey that you need to start to connect these dots for yourself. So journaling is definitely a powerful tool that we use with our clients.
I agree. It's super powerful.
It really is.
Because without awareness, we can't change. Without awareness, there is no change, because you don't know that it's an issue. It's
right.
Exactly.
Change what you don't know.
Which is why we personally love tracking and things like that. I know you're not an advocate for the tracking, or at least not with your clients, but food journals are great. And there's lots of different ways to raise awareness without just tracking. And, there's many ways to skin the cat, they say, right? So.
Yeah. And we definitely start with that within the first, couple weeks, is just documenting what they're eating.
Yep.
And there are some clients where I do have them track what the calorie and macro content is, especially if it's someone that's maybe like eating out a lot or fast food a lot, just for them to see like, oh yeah, look at all this fat.
I mean, this burger at Burger King is 1,200 calories and not 400 like I thought.
Right. Yeah. I had someone that, was just eating fast food for the majority of her meals. And so
that's tough.
Yeah. But there was also like a lot of opportunity, because as soon as she started eating well, it was like, holy shit, I feel so good. It was like, she had one piece of fruit and it was like the heavens had parted, and you were like, oh shit, like, wow, I'm not crashing. This is amazing, So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I love that.
Good stuff. A lot of good info in this podcast.
I know.
Right
Very good info. I love the mindfulness that you incorporate. It's mindfulness in every aspect of life we can benefit from.
Absolutely.
Because when you start focus on your mindful eating, that's going to build awareness and mindfulness in other aspects of your life too, with your movements, right? Mindful movements and how you interact with other people. It's going to improve all of those relationships.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I don't want them to be with me forever, but how am I going to help them be successful after this program? So I need to give them the tools that that they know what's going on in their bodies, and they're not just following a 30-day plan just for the sake of a 30-day plan. I started saying this, and then I realized my coach Jill had said this too, but like, I really feel like diets make you dumber. It's like, eat this, not that, eat during this time, drink this amount of water. And it's like, do I even like blueberries? Like, am I just eating them because they're on the plan, or, what's going on? So I think people just need to get more comfortable with, like, there is no right way to eat. There's just the right way for you to eat. And let's
mic drop.
Figure it out what it is,
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's amazing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Laura, this has been great. We want to give you an opportunity here. If people love what you're talking about and they want to learn more about you, how can they do that?
Yeah.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram. That's my main platform, at Laura Cavallo __cravings _coach. My last name is spelled C-A-V as in Victor, A-L-L-O. You can find me under Beth's IG and soon Matt's.
Yep.
Or my website, lauracavallocoaching.com. And I got all things cravings in there. Got some freebies for you.
Awesome.
And a couple programs coming up this spring as well.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. This was such a great conversation.
Yeah, I loved it.
Totally. It's our pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. And keep
so
doing
much,
what
Laura.
you guys are doing in the space. I mean, like we need to keep pushing ahead and getting through all the bullshit that's out there because it's fucking exhausting and just keeps popping up.
So exhausting.
Just when I think that's like, you know what? I think people are okay out there. You know?
A new wave hits.
It just fucking gets
We've been
worse.
dealing with that
I'm
recently, haven't we, Beth?
Holy shit.
Yeah. People are okay. And then Gwyneth Paltrow comes out with her routine. And now we're having to fucking.
Why are we listening to Gwyneth Paltrow for nutrition and lifestyle advice? Honestly, why are we listening?
I've been
to
called so many names
anyway?
this week. I can't even begin to tell you guys. Big deep breaths.
Yeah, well, I lived in Los Angeles for 7 years. And one of the reasons I left is just because I couldn't subscribe to the culture, the materialism, the how you look, who do you know, what can you do for me lifestyle. And for some people that works. And for some people, they're very removed from it. So it doesn't affect them. But for me, I just felt like I was just not in a good culture and a not environment. And, you know, that's sort of part of it, the Hollywood diet culture aspect. So
Totally.
But anyway, we will
We
pursue
could do an entire segment on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Literally.
Shit Gwyneth has said.
Hope you enjoyed this episode, so why not share with a friend who needs to hear it? Send us a DM on Instagram or email us at cutthecrappod@gmail.com and join our Patreon at patreon.com/cutthecrappodcast. As always, we appreciate you and thanks for being here.